Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Thaddeus Bridget. This is the first pilot series of Talking with the Pastor, and I have the honor, the privilege to present to some and introduce to others a woman of God who's been very, very instrumental in my life as well as others around the world. She is known throughout the Bronx. She is very known throughout the United Missionary Baptist Association, and she is just a true servant of God. Let me introduce you to Dr. Gloria Bradshaw. Thank you for giving me a moment of your time, Dr. Bradshaw. Just let the people know a little bit about yourself. They want to know, because most people, when they see a pastor, they naturally think that the pastor is so on this scale and on this level that the title establishes them. So I want them to have a little bit more in depth with you. Pastor?
Well, I'd like to say thank you very much for allowing me to be the pilot, and I'm very grateful and very proud of you that you have thought of this, and as my son, I think that's very special. And I'm very grateful because you know for a fact that we have come a long way.
Yes.
I have had a career in music, and that was my place. That's where I always thought I was going to be, in music. And as minister of music, and graduating from C.W. Post College with my music degree, that's where I was headed. I had always been in music, so I thought I was going to be a minister of music.
Okay.
But God had a whole nother plan for me. And in 1990, I preached my first sermon. I was ordained by the Cathedral United Bible Institute Seminary under the direction and leadership of the Reverend Dr. James Eugene Berry. And went to school, had 5 years of seminary, and had my ordination in 1995, and went through my doctoral program and received that in 1997. And I am currently enrolled at the NIOC College Alliance Theological Seminary, getting a biblical degree in biblical literature. And so, the Lord has done many things for me. But what I didn't know, I had been at Cathedral Baptist Church for 18 years, and the Lord had a way and sent me to the Mount Bethel Baptist Church, where I am now currently the pastor, and I will be celebrating my 12th year on the 4th Sunday in March. So God had a whole, when they tell you that God has already ordained your steps, He actually has. So I've had an extensive life, and I'm enjoying pastoring. I think pastoring is one of the most wonderful gifts that God could give for us to do, and leading God's people is something really great. I count it an honor to be the pastor of the Mount Bethel Baptist Church.
Okay, so on becoming pastor of the Mount Bethel Baptist Church, did you feel that there was any other church that you would pastor or anything that you would want to do? But from what I've seen, I noticed that pastoring the Mount Bethel Baptist Church has been not more as a job, I would say. It's been more of a passion for you.
Yes.
Because you've been able to take the church from Manhattan to the Bronx. So tell us how that transition from Manhattan to the Bronx
That was a wonderful experience. It really shows the working of God, and how God, through Jesus Christ, if He ordained something to be so, He will do it. This is not my first time pastoring. I've pastored in the Cathedral Baptist Church. I pastored about 10 years. I pastored the youth ministry, and then I also pastored the Soundview Cathedral Baptist Church for about 4 years. And I also established a ministry in Stamford, Connecticut at one time. with about a few more members, but we started about 25, and the Lord sent me out into what I consider the wilderness.
Okay.
So I had a real wilderness experience coming to Mount Bethel.
Okay.
So that's why I can say God did that, because at the time my father was called to be the advisor to Mount Bethel.
Okay.
And at that time I was called out of Cathedral. And I was called out of Cathedral in 2003. And my
Okay.
father came to be their advisor in 2005.
Okay.
And that whole time we were looking for a place, but we were in an upper room. And we thank God for Pastor Wilson and the St. Luke A&E Baptist Church
Okay.
at the time. And we were there at St. Luke for 10 years.
Okay.
And God brought us to 698 Cortland Avenue.
Wow.
Yes. And the reason why it was so interesting is because when we first tried to get the building, we couldn't.
Okay.
And then the Lord turned it right around, and they called us back. So you have to know, sometimes people have experiences, but when you really know the working of God,
Okay.
God gets into something, and He gets into people. And the scripture in Nehemiah says the people had a mind to work. Well, Mount Bethel, they had a mind to work. They caught the vision. And they said, you know what, one Sunday the Lord had led me, we had tried to be in Manhattan, and we was praying for Manhattan, because the church had been in Manhattan for over 80 some years. So
Okay.
I even liked being in Manhattan. And I was like, all right, Lord. But one Sunday the Lord led us in that whole scripture of increasing your territory.
Okay.
And that prayer of Zabaj, I said, wow, God, you brought me to that and said, you have to realize that I will enlarge your territory. Don't just think, let me do it. And so I said to the church, I said, you know what, we're going to just let God be God.
Okay.
And let Him take us to where He wants us to be. And He'll open up that door for us. And He did. And when this became available to us, it's interesting how the Lord put us here.
Okay.
So it's been a journey. It's not easy, but the people of God have held on to their faith until the Lord opened up this door. And here we are. We've been here 2 years. This is our third year we're going into. And we're growing.
Okay. So let's talk about today's message. You were implementing about the light, that people need to recognize about their light, that they need to let their light shine so that others may know of the goodness of Christ and what He's able to do in their lives. So just expound upon your word today.
Well, as my subject matter was, stop hiding your light. What happens to us is, I believe that we really do not understand the spiritual concept of what our light is. And so if we don't know that that's that part of us that God is using on His behalf, our insecurities, our lack of enthusiasm, and the fact that we might not know what our purpose is or our gift, we might hide that thing because we don't even know how it is. But the scripture said, why put a light under a bushel? Why put it away? How is it going to shine if no one can see it? How's it going to light the room? If you wanted a light to lit up a room, you either are going to put the light on a table or you're going to put it up on a shelf high so that the light, rays of the light would project. And so what God's trying to say is that thing that is within us needs to be projected to other people. We need to let it out of us. And this way the Lord will use us and we will be a light within the church. So I look at this. Imagine if everybody in church were to use their lights.
Yes.
And even if it is just their voice and praise, just the mere fact of that, the light that would shine in a church, you would see the glow of God's glory in the church from the people because their lights are all shining.
Wow.
And so it's interesting because sometimes we wonder why, we say a church is this and that. But the people of God, that's why Jesus said in the scripture, you are the light of the world. It's almost as that, like God says, I need you. I'm the light. So if I'm the light that's in me, the fact that you believe in me, that spirit part of you now will radiate from me. And people will see who I am through you.
Wow.
So how can people see Christ if we are not projecting his light? And so I recognize the reason why Jesus felt so many thousands of people is because of his light. There was something about him that was radiating that made people want to be around him, wanted to listen to him, wanted to know who he was. When he began, because people are showing who they are.
Okay.
Through their light and through that projection of that energy. And I always use the word energy because light gives off energy.
Okay.
And I think that's why God wanted us to see that, because he had to use something that people could honestly understand. So when you're in darkness, you are looking for the light. So Jesus says to the people, I am the light in a dark place. I am the light in the things that are in the spiritual darkness. I can comprehend over the darkness. My light shines through anything. And then in the scripture, if he's going to say, you and I are the light now, can you imagine? You and I overcoming any kind of darkness that can come into our life? Yes, we can.
Pastor Bradshaw, I just want to say thank you for giving me all your time. But what I want to do for the last part of our segment, just what would you say to encourage future preachers and future pastors of the Church of Jesus Christ? How would you give encouragement to them? You can look right at the camera. Be yourself.
I would encourage anyone who has been called to this wonderful task of ministering and pastoring to allow God to lead you. Missionary said to me when I first became a minister, she was in ministry and an old evangelist, very gifted. And one thing she said to me, tell God about everything. And one thing that I learned in seminary is that the call that I have comes from God. And that I have been set apart for the people of God. And that I should never, ever forget that I've been sent by God. And that when we who have been chosen and ordained before the world began to be those that when we call and when we minister, there's something that we have been given to compel man to come from the darkness into the marvelous light. I can't imagine being able to have been gifted with the authority to say to evil, be peace. I can't imagine that I've been gifted to be able to say to anything that I've been called by God with authority to stop the enemy in his tracks. Now, I'm sorry. That right there for me says it all. That I never will forget what the Lord has given me. Stay with Jesus. Do not lean to your own understanding, as Proverbs 3:5. Know that God is with you. And know that the people of God that you have been sent to are not your people, but God's people. You are only a caretaker for the Lord. God bless you.
Well, thank you, Pastor Bradshaw, for your encouragement to others of gospel runners of the gospel of Jesus Christ. And I just want to say thank you again for giving us the time to interview you. And until next time, I'm talking with the pastor. I'm Thaddeus Paget. And then until that time, continue to let your light shine.